Today we're going to talk about jiu-jitsu gis. Some people call it kimonos. Okay, so, one thing for sure is once you start doing jiu-jitsu, you get the jiu-jitsu bug and you love it so much, well, you'll buy a lot of different rash guards, different gis, because you enjoy it and this is the way that you express yourself, just like tattoos or anything else. So what ends up happening is you have some schools that you're allowed to wear any gi that you want, and the other schools you have to wear their gi. So there are pros and cons about it, and I'll go into that really quickly. So for some schools, you are only allowed to wear their gi. So there's pros and cons to that. So let's talk about the pros first. You don't have to worry about buying other gis. If you're into jiu-jitsu and your school allows you to wear anything you want, you might get really obsessed with buying very expensive gis, and every week a new gi comes out, and next thing you know, you're just blowing away a lot of money. And if you're a white belt or a blue belt, you might not be doing jiu-jitsu for the rest of your life. It's just a fact. So next thing you know, you're a 3 straight white belt with 15 gis, and then all of a sudden something happens and you never do jiu-jitsu again, and you have a closet full of gis. Now, what are you gonna do with them, right? When you go to a school that you're only allowed to wear their gi, that's not such a bad thing. So the thing is, you'll have maybe a few gis that are all the same, and a white one and a blue one and a black one, and that's it. And those gis will last you a long time, and you'll wear them until they pretty much fall apart. When you go to a school that you can wear any gi, you might get obsessed with buying a lot of gis. So, and then also, people call it the money grab. If you go to a school where it's like, oh, you can only wear our gis, it's like, well, okay, you made this much money off me for my classes. How much more money do you have to take from me? But at the same time, you got to think about it. You're supporting their school. And in the end, they might be making some money off of you, which helps the school, but also it helps you not spend more money on other brands that you just don't need to have, okay? The thing is, too, is some gis are cut differently for different people. I was always a muscular person where a lot of gis brands didn't fit me, and this is back in the days when nobody had their own, school gis, for jiu-jitsu. So like I used to have to buy, either back then they had only Atamas, Krugans, and then Coral came out, and then usually everything was from Brazil, so I was able to get a mixed match. So I'd get an A2 and an A3, and then I would have to alter the pants because it's made for somebody who's 6'5", and I'm not even close to that height. So that's the pros and cons, because the school might make a gi that just doesn't fit your body type too well, so that's one thing. Another thing is, when you get a gi from your school, the person there, the teacher, whoever is selling them, will have you try it on. And they know better from experience, where they'll say, okay, you know what, I would go a size up or a size down. And you try it on and you give it back and you find the best fit for you. When you buy a gi online from a different brand, which there's so many out there, you don't know until you get it. It might give you an idea, it's made for this person of this height, from 5'8" to 6'1", which is a big gap. And it could be from anywhere from a person who's 200 pounds to 240 pounds, which is a big gap. And you don't know how it fits you until you get it. And a lot of jiu-jitsu gi companies don't accept returns, because usually they're a limited edition, and every week they have a new gi, and once you buy it, you're stuck with it. And if anything, you try to sell it online as a brand new gi, and hopefully you could get rid of it. But then this requires a lot of time, effort, and money, and some people don't have that. So when you get it from the school, if it doesn't fit right, they could exchange it right away and there's no problems. So that's definitely one of the benefits of purchasing it in the school. Plus, when you buy a gi that's not from the school and it's a blank gi, you have to take it to get tailored and put patches on, and right away that's going to jack up the price at least another $25 to $50. When you get it from the school that has the patches on it already. There's nothing else you have to do besides throw it on. When you purchase gis from other companies, they come in different widths, different lengths, and sometimes you just gotta take it to the tailor and spend some money, and that's just the way it is. I had to do that since day one, so that's how it just was. But also another thing is, when you start to purchase stuff online, people will sell two types of gis, either something that's been used or something that's brand new in the bag, meaning never used. Okay, I would usually try to go for something that's never used. But somebody might say, listen, I wear the gi one time to teach, because they're teaching, right? And I washed it and that's it. And then that's okay. Some gis, there's one gi, hopefully I could find it online and put it here, where it's just disgusting, it's filthy, it's dirty, it's a white gi where it's just like, just totally gross, and somebody's selling it for a good price because of the brand that it is. Meanwhile, it's just mind-blowing. But also, when you buy a used gi that was just used for a long time by the person, it could have been 5 classes or 500 classes. You don't know who that person is. You don't know if they have any skin issues. They might have eczema or any other thing. That person could have had ringworm. You just don't know. That person could have just had really bad body odor and wasn't very clean. Even though they washed the gi, now they send it to you, and next thing you know, once the gi starts to get warmed up with your heat and sweat, it starts to reek a certain odor that's not really yours, but it's embedded in the gi, and it's completely disgusting. So, I would never wear a gi without washing it first, but you don't know who sent it to you. I remember I bought a brand new gi, never used, but the person obviously was a chain smoker. The person's like, oh, I had it in my car. It's been in my car for months. I don't know why, but I'm never gonna use it. And I remember buying it, and it just reeked of cigarettes. It was brand new, but it still stunk, So I had to clean it and do everything. It was never used, but still, somebody's smoking. You wanna know if the person's a smoker or not also. So when you get a gi online, there's a lot of stuff you have to worry about. When you get it at the school, there's nothing that you have to worry about. If you get it directly from the factory and it's brand new, the only thing you have to worry about for the first time if it fits you correctly, and that's super simple. If it's a company like Fuji, then you could probably return it. If it's a company that sells limited gis, you're stuck with the gi, and it's your problem. Another thing about purchasing gis, if you're not getting it from a school, you're getting any of the, name brand stuff out there, try to buy it directly from the company. There are some, Facebook groups where you don't have to really worry so much, but on eBay, there's a ton of fake gis being sold that some manufacturer will make it either China or Pakistan and say it's a certain brand that is going for a couple $100, but they're selling it for $100 brand new. Makes no sense. Why would they sell it so cheap? I must be getting the deal of a lifetime. I better jump on it. And then you get screwed. So there are a lot of people on eBay that sell fake gis. If somebody does it on Facebook, they get called out right away, and it's not a pretty thing for them. But if you're gonna get a gi on eBay, make sure that person either is reputable and look at their ratings. Because if you get stuck with a scammer selling you a shit gi, and they put in the bottom not authentic or not genuine, or they put no brand when it is a brand, PayPal and eBay might hold you responsible for not reading the fine detail. And the last thing you want to do is get a fake gi, and now you're stuck with some crap you can't get rid of or return or get your refund. So I would try to stay away from eBay unless it's a reputable seller or it's coming directly from the company, because some companies now sell stuff on eBay. And even when you're going through the Facebook groups, make sure it's a group where the person who's in charge makes sure that only good reputable people sell gis on there, because otherwise you could be stuck with some crap and now you're screwed and you're shit out of luck. if you do purchase a gi online from somebody, whether it was used once or whatever, it's your choice, ask the person, are you able to return it if it doesn't fit you right? If they say no, once you buy it, it's yours. I wouldn't go for it, especially if it's a gi company that you don't know anything about. And what I mean by that, you don't know how it fits you. So say you usually get this one brand, because I'm not going to promote any brands here. Say you get brand A, and that fits great, but you want to try brand B. But most of the companies that sell brand B won't take returns anyway. So you don't know if you want to risk it. So now if somebody's selling brand B themselves, because either they didn't like it or they bought too much stuff and they got to get rid of something, ask them, am I able to return it if it doesn't fit me right? If they say no, not that I would be skeptical. It's like, do you really want to take that risk? If they say, yeah, no problem, if it doesn't fit, you can send it back, go for it, because at least now you have nothing to worry about. Because anytime you try a new brand, you don't know how it's going to fit you until you put it on. This is, again, the pros of buying it at the school. Because if it doesn't fit, they could go upstairs or downstairs or wherever they get it and get you a different size. So you have nothing to worry about. Whenever you buy it online, remember, you got to pay for shipping for at least $16 to $20 or $25, depending how far it is, and go to the post office and go through all that stuff, which is fine. Most of us have done that before. But, before you buy a gi, look at the return policy. This is super important, because you don't want to be stuck with something that's crap and now you can't unload it onto somebody else trying to sell it online, because you could have it online for years where nobody's buying it, so, or you don't want to sell it to your friend where it could be a good gi, it didn't fit you, that's fine, but if it's something you just didn't like, you don't want to have to worry about compromising your integrity or selling somebody that is complete garbage. So in my last video, I talked about hygiene and infections, right? So I covered stinky gis and all that stuff, so I'm not going to do that here. But when you do get your gi and you start training in it, you have to worry about a few different things. Did you buy a gi that's pre-shrunk or not? If it's pre-shrunk, that means you should be able to throw it in the dryer after washing it and it won't shrink. If it's not pre-shrunk, a gi could shrink anywhere from 1 to 3 inches easily, okay? And if you got a new gi and you put it on and it fits comfortably, now you have to watch out, because if you put it in the dryer, it might shrink to the point where now it doesn't fit you anymore, and that's a couple $100 thrown out the window. So, and the thing is also, even if you hang dry it, if you wash it, I would say hang dry it so it doesn't shrink anymore if it's not pre-shrunk. But say your girlfriend or your wife or your husband, comes in and says, oh, look, their gi's hanging up, let me wash it for them. And then they put it in a dryer because they don't know anything. And next thing you know, the gi doesn't fit you ever again. This has happened in the past with plenty of people that I know. So, when you get a gi, you want to know if it's pre-shrunk or not. Because now when you wear it and it fits fine, you got to watch out. You got to watch out that you don't put it ever in the dryer, because once it shrinks, it might not fit you anymore. And then that's money right out the window. So now we'll talk about just washing your gi. So in the last video, I said once you finish training, you want to make sure once you get home, you hang your gi up in a place where it's either in sunshine or fresh air, or at least it's in a room where air is circulating, so next to a window or having a fan on, because you want it to dry. The last thing you want to do is keep your gi in the bag overnight, where it starts to get mildewy and starts to build up bacteria and stuff like that, okay? So now you go to wash your gi. What are some of the best things to do and not to do? First of all, don't use bleach. We used to do that back in the day. It destroys the material of the gi, and it gives us this ammonia smell where your gi starts to smell like cat piss. People don't want to roll with people that smell like cat piss, okay? So you don't want to use bleach. It starts to mess up the gi and it starts to make it stink. And it doesn't even kill the bacteria in there because it doesn't get deep enough. So the thing that I've read up on from many different websites, the best thing to do is, of course, use the soap that you know is good for your skin, the detergent. If you like something that has a certain scent, put that in there. Nobody's ever complained about somebody smelling good at jiu-jitsu. Usually it's somebody that smells really bad. That's where people complain. So find a detergent that you like. If you know your gi does have a certain odor in it, white vinegar, pouring white vinegar in it, not a whole bottle. You just put like a little cup worth, like what you put in the detergent, you put that in there. Once you dry the gi, once the gi dries, the scent will not be there for the white vinegar. You put that, you could put OxyClean or borax, because that helps. It's hydrogen peroxide that gets deep into the gi to help clean it. So those are the three things that most people recommend to do. Is you got your detergent, you use white vinegar, and you got OxyClean or borax. Once the gi is clean, now from there, depending on how you dry it, you could either hang dry it because it fits fine and you don't want it to shrink because it's not pre-shrunk, or if you put it in the dryer, put it on a low tumble. Okay, that will help it not shrink as much also. I would definitely put a fabric softener in there because you're wearing your gi. You want to be comfortable. Back in the days, nobody wore rash guards underneath, but now most people do, but some people still don't. And if you wear a short sleeve shirt, you don't want to feel something just rubbing against your skin that's not comfortable. So a fabric softener, plus it makes the gi just more comfortable, right? So I would recommend doing that. When it comes to drying the gi, you have two types. You have either putting in the dryer or hang drying. If you don't want the gi to shrink because it's not pre-shrunk and you did buy it and it fits comfortably and you don't want it to shrink, always hang dry it. That's it. Just when you do hang dry it, make sure you do one of two things. When you hang it up, make sure it's well ventilated. It's on a nice hanger where air could get in and out. Once you feel the outside is dry, put it inside out, so now you can make sure the inside dries, because otherwise it could get really just mildewy on the inside if you don't do that. Another thing is to help preserve the color of the gi. If you have it hanging outside, the sun will bleach the gi. So if you have a white gi, it's always going to look nice and crisp. If you have a colored gi and you have it outside in the sunlight, it's going to start to lighten the color. So if you don't want the color to get lightened, I would say to try to dry it inside out. That will help a little bit. Otherwise, the only good thing about the sun, it kills any type of bacteria or fungal infections that are there. So, and then if you put it in the dryer, if you don't want the gi to shrink, it might take a lot longer, put it on a low tumble. You know, I rather just hang dry it. If you know the gi is pre-shrunk and it's not gonna shrink, you could throw it on almost any heat and nothing's gonna happen. But if you want to preserve the color, make sure that you put it inside out so it helps preserve the color. Because when you have a colored gi, you're gonna notice that if you don't do that, the outside's gonna be very worn and faded and the inside's gonna be crisp and new. So if you want your gi to stay with the color that you have and be nice and fresh, I would put it inside out before you put it in the dryer after you take it out of the washing machine. Also with the washing machine, if you're doing it at a laundromat, you could do whatever you want, it doesn't matter. If you're washing your gis at home and you put them in the machine, don't put more than 2 in there. Because if you put more than 2 gis, 3 sometimes you can, depending on your size, right? It's all about how heavy the gis are. But the gis absorb a lot of water and they get really heavy. So if you're putting a bunch of gis and stuffing them into your washing machine, it could break the belt. I know I've done that, but it's not I live in a building, so it didn't matter to me, but this was a long time ago. You know, it is over 20 years ago, but the gis get really heavy, so you don't want to destroy your washing machine, especially if it's yours. So I wouldn't stuff a bunch of gis in there, because once they start to get saturated with water, they get really heavy, and it just could overheat the machine and break it. So if you do have your own washing machine, I wouldn't put more than maybe 2 gis. Of course, if you have a child that does jiu-jitsu and you have 3 or 4 gis, they're super tiny, it's not a big deal. But as an adult, you don't want to put maybe more than 2 or 3 gis in a washing machine at one time, because you don't want to break your machine, because that's going to cost you hundreds of dollars to fix. Here's another thing. If you're one of those people that are lucky enough where you could afford to put your stuff at the cleaners where you send your laundry out all the time, you know, with the jiu-jitsu gis, you got to tell them, you know, and mark it where it's like, listen, if the gi's not allowed to be dried, you have to make sure they know and label it somehow, and you trust them. Because there's been plenty of people that send their stuff out, especially living in New York City, where they don't have time to do their laundry. I always did my own laundry, where they sent it out and then they come back and they go to jiu-jitsu and they go, holy shit, my gi doesn't fit anymore. They shrunk my gi. So, you know, with clothing and stuff, you send it out, that's fine. When you send your gi out to the cleaners, you have to make sure they know if they could put it in a dryer or not. You know, you might have to tell them, listen, this has to be a low tumble or just hang dry, because they don't do jiu-jitsu. They don't know. It's not their responsibility, but you have to tell them, because the last thing you want to do is send your stuff out to get washed, and then you go to put your gi on, it doesn't fit because it shrunk, because it wasn't a pre-shrunk gi. Now you're out a couple $100, and that really sucks. Also, when it comes to gis, you have standard gis and you have competition gis. The competition gis are usually made of maybe a stronger material. I wouldn't say always thicker. I'll talk about that in a second. And those gis also, the competition gis, are definitely more expensive. So, you know, you have to see if it's worth it for you to get it. Also, when it comes to wearing gis, you wear what you enjoy. You want lightweight gis because you live in a place that's super hot and they don't have AC at the jiu-jitsu school. You could wear a thick gi. I mean, some of the judo gis back in the days were so thick it was like wearing body armor. So if you want to wear that, that's fine. Also, if you know you're going to compete, when you order a gi, you want to know how much it weighs, because you don't want to wear a gi that puts an extra pound on you when you're brushing, you know, that fine line between being in the next division or a different category. So, you know, the weight of a gi makes a difference too, because you want it to be like that where it benefits you for competition. When it comes to thick gis, they are just stiffer. So if you don't like that feeling, make sure you're getting a light weave of some kind. There's so many different things out there now. Also, when it comes to buying gis, you could wear almost anything in the school, but competing wise, some gis are not legal to use for competition. I don't know if it's origin gis. I don't think those are IBJJF regulated. You know, I remember with Howard combat kimonos back in the days, some guys went to Brazil with just those, and they were made to be super like fitting, where if you can't put 4 fingers in the sleeve, they didn't let you use it. You know, so now you're going to compete and they're like, sorry, you can't wear that gi here. What are you gonna do? You know, so make sure if you do compete, if it's IBJJF, make sure that your gi meets those regulations, so when you go there to compete, you can wear the gi that you brought. You know, you don't want to borrow somebody's gi in the middle of competition. I don't think that's possible all the time. Or you don't want to buy a brand new gi and it doesn't fit right, and now it gets in the way of you competing, you know, because just comfort and movement isn't to be hindered. So these are different things to look at. So hopefully I answered most questions I could think of when it comes to buying jiu-jitsu gis, what to look for, what not to do. You know, again, buying used gis, that's a risk, because you don't know if that's one stinky motherfucker that was just dirty and had skin issues you're buying from. Even if you wash it, that stuff could be really embedded in the gi and God forbid give you something. Buying a brand new gi, you have nothing to worry about besides maybe it shrinking, you know, when you buy it, and dry it if you put it in the dryer. Another thing about gis, you have 2 types. You have either white gis or colored gis, right? So a white gi you have nothing really to worry about, but with a colored gi, back in the days when they first came out, they would bleed. So, you know, now you don't have to worry about that. But if you want your colored gi to look fresh and crisp for a long time where it doesn't look, worn out. Color-wise, I would say when you do wash the gi, wash the pants and the top inside out. This will help preserve the color. So just something that most people don't think about. So if you want your black or blue gi or whatever color it is, if you want it to stay looking fresh, wash it inside out. Because the thing is, the blue gis will start get a little lighter. That's not a big deal. But the black gis, sometimes when they start to get old, they start to look brown instead of black. So if you want to preserve the color, wash the pants and the top inside out. All right, that's another good tip that I just wanted to share. Also, another thing about gis are brands. Every brand is cut differently. Everybody's built differently. So if you don't have to wear the gi from your school, I mean, if you do, you have nothing to worry about. It is what it is. But when you're buying gis, try different companies until you find the ones that you love. It could be either a cheap brand or an expensive brand. It doesn't matter. It has to be good for you and functional while you're training. This is super important, okay? So when you're looking at gi brands, when you find the gi that you love because of the cut, you found your gi. With sizes, now they have stuff that's for longer, lankier people, and they have stuff that's for shorter, wider people. It could be an H for husky or whatever it is, an L for long. Each company will do its own thing, but when you find a company that you love, you stick with it. If they have different types of series of gis within that company, they might be cut differently. So be aware of that before you purchase it. Because if the gi is too tight and it's not comfortable or too big on you, it's frustrating if you can't return it. So those are some things to definitely look at when you're starting to search different companies. If they tell you the measurements or what it's built for the height and weight, look at those things. Those are super important to look at. When you get the gi, you want to know the return policy. Also, if that gi fits you and you love the way it feels, the weight, everything, you found your company, and that's the most important thing. Somebody might love a company. Like, I remember, my friend Emerson, he loves Atomic gis, right? They just didn't fit me right because I was just too muscular for it. Back in the days, the Coral gis were my favorite, and the Krugen gis. Even Krugen changed now where their pants are very tight and don't fit me anymore. So even some companies will start to change the way that their cuts for their gis. These are things to be aware of too, because once you find a gi that fits you and they change their style, then it kind of sucks because now you have to look for another company. So this is another thing to keep in mind. Okay, once you purchase a gi, how do you know if it fits you or not? Well, at least with the pants, you don't want it dragging on the floor or going underneath behind your heel. Usually where you want the pants to sit is around your waist, so you have good mobility, and you want the bottom of the pants to be somewhere around your ankle. Either below it, above it, but not by much. Okay, you don't want high waters either. And then with the gi, once you put it on, comfort, it depends on you, how it feels in the armpits. But if you put your arms out straight like a T, you want, when your arms are straight out there, you want the gi to fall around right under the wrist bone. This going further down is not legal in tournaments and stuff. You don't want a gi where the sleeves are up to here. As a kid, it's okay. If you're a parent, you could roll it up because they'll grow into it. But as an adult, once your arms are out and you're trying to gi on, put your belt on also first. It should be anywhere around here. This is comfortable around your wrist bone. If it starts to come up here, then if it's not pre-shrunk, you could try to shrink it a little bit. When you get a gi and it's not pre-shrunk, it will shrink anywhere from 1 to maybe 3 to 4 inches. So if you have a gi that's really long up to here, and you're like, that's okay, I'll try to shrink it because up here is a little bit baggy. Once you put it in the dryer, make sure you check like every 5 minutes or so, because you want to make sure that the gi doesn't end up here, and next thing you know, you can't wear it anymore. So if the gi is a little bit long, that's not a bad thing if it's not pre-shrunk. If it's pre-shrunk, it's not shrinking anymore. So if the gi is around here and it's not pre-shrunk, if you put it in the dryer a few times, it'll probably get to the point where it gets to here. This is all up to you. I'm not saying to do any of this because I'm not responsible for your stuff, but the gi does shrink anywhere from 1 to 4 inches depending on plenty of other things. So you can shrink your gi if you want to. Usually I have to get a size up and I have to wash it, put it in the dryer. Usually takes about 3 times washing it and throwing it in the dryer before it shrinks to its full potential, where I never have to worry about it shrinking again. And usually for me, that gets to the point where it fits perfectly and I don't have to worry about it. The pants, unfortunately, just because of the size I have to get, I always have to bring it to the tailor and get it altered. One more thing about gis, back in the days, we used to have patches all over like we're in NASCAR, right? I still think it looks awesome, but that's expensive. If you have to buy a patch, that's $10 to $20 per patch. To go take it professionally to get put on, a person could charge you anywhere from $10 to $15 per patch, and this starts to become very costly. If you have the money, do it up, enjoy yourself. So when you get a gi from the school, it has all the patches on it. So right away you're saving money, there's less stress, you know if it fits or not. You're part of the gang now because you have the same uniform as everybody else. But here's the cons. So say you have to move in the future and you're still doing jiu-jitsu, and now you move to a school that you have to wear their gi. This sucks, because if it's not the same school, you know, like Gracie Baja, you could go here and they're all over the place. But not every school is like that. So now you go to a new school that's not affiliated with them, and they go, well, you have to wear our uniform. Now you have to buy all new gis, and say you're a purple belt. It's like, dude, I've been training for years, and I have to get your gis. This is what happens sometimes. And sometimes schools will lose business from getting potentially new students from other schools for that one reason. You know, so if you're at a school that you don't have to wear their school gi, and you have to put a patch on, a patch is easy to take off, that's no problem. Or if you don't have to put on anything, at Henzo's, nobody ever cared. You just, as long as it's not a different school logo on, nobody cared. So it's either any gi of your choice with no patches, or the school gi with the embroidery and patch on it. So now, if you do move somewhere and you have a ton of that school's gi, now you can't wear it at that other place. You have to buy all new gis. You know, so now this is another thing. If you're at a school where they don't care if you wear their gi or not, then sometimes it might be easier to buy a blank gi without any patches on it, just so in case you have to move. Say you're in the military, you know, and you know you move every so many years. You might not want a gi from that school because you don't know where you're going to end up once you go to another duty station. So this is some food for thought. And that's about it. And keep training, keep enjoying jiu-jitsu. Train smarter, not harder. Here I'm going to share a post from a friend that he put on Instagram from buying a used gi. Read this.